even like a 20 watt, you go higher on the bike, you might just save about 5 or 10 minutes in the entire duration. But
Right,
you will lose half an hour or probably almost an hour if you're just doing a walk run,
right.
right? So it doesn't make sense. So just for that 5, 10 minutes extra that you gain on the bike, you would lose so much on the run. So you might as well take 10 minutes more, but that's going to really help you get that target that you want, that run split that you want.
I am Venki, a working professional in IT as well as an amateur masters athlete and a coach for endurance sports. You are listening to the Working Athlete podcast. Here, I talk to working athletes from all walks of life and experts from various sports to provide you with inspiration, training tips, and lifestyle advice. If this is something that interests you, I have a small request from you. Please subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. You can also let me know what you like and what you would like to listen to more of by commenting in the comment section on YouTube. I promise to do my best to improve with each episode and bring you the best content that helps you and me get better each day. In this episode, I talked to Chaitanya or Coach Chai of PowerPeaks. Chai is a triathlon coach with PowerPeaks based out of Pune, working with athletes from all around the country. In this episode, he shares his journey as an athlete and a coach. We talk about ultra cycling, triathlon, and talk in detail about pacing and nutrition strategies for both. His passion for the sport comes through in this conversation, and I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. This episode is brought to you by The Bike Affair. If you are in search of a one stop destination that caters to all your cycling needs, our today's sponsor, The Bike Affair, is the perfect place to check out. I have known the founders of the Bike Affair, Krish and Gokul, personally for nearly 15 years now. In fact, my first century ride was with Krish back in 2008. They are both exceptional human beings and entrepreneurs that believe in providing exceptional service to their customers. And it shows. With over 14 years of experience, the Bike Affair has established itself as a trusted source offering honest advice and exceptional service. They are offering a special treat for the listeners of this podcast. You can enjoy a 10% discount on your first order by using the code BikeyVenki on their website. So if you are in Hyderabad, visit their store in Kondapur, or if you are anywhere else in India, shop online by using the link thebikeaffair.com. I will leave the link in the show notes. Now, enjoy the podcast. Welcome to the Working Athlete podcast, Che. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much, Venki. It's a pleasure too. Great
Awesome.
to be here.
Chaitanya, the first time I met you was back in, I don't know exactly, I don't remember exactly which year, but it was one of these BBCH races
Correct.
outside of Bangalore,
Yeah.
near Dodbalapur, uh,
Correct.
where we were doing like three loops of some 35 kilometer loops or something like that in the countryside.
Correct. I think
Out,
it was the
out back.
Gunjur circuit race,
Correct,
if I'm not
correct.
wrong. Yeah, I think we were at that. I think that was 2012, or
12.
maybe 14,
14 is what I am
maybe,
guessing.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, if it was 14, it was maybe like
Yeah,
10
that's
years
10
ago.
years.
Right.
Yeah.
And both of us have had, you know, different journeys,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in many ways similar journeys, in the sense
Correct.
like,
Correct.
you took on the triathlon path and
Yeah.
went on to become a coach. I've stayed with cycling and
Yeah.
become a coach there,
Yeah.
and we've been pursuing that passion. We've been in touch with the sport all these
Correct.
years. So it's great to finally sit here and talk about our journeys here, right?
Definitely, it's been one heck of a journey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
In fact, Vicky, I think we met even before. I think probably just before that race, we had done one of those Nandi Epic races as well.
right.
And I remember I was behind on your wheel for a bit.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah.
Super. So, before we get into your journey in the sport, what was it like? What was your relationship with sport growing up?
Growing up, I mean, the earliest I can remember is I've started my competitive journey as a swimmer since I was in my third standard or a fourth standard in school. So that was pretty serious at that time. I had a coach, and we were pushed to represent the zonals, and we went till the state level. So I did that for 2 3 years. Yeah, nothing like super serious because I mean we didn't go beyond that, but it was still pretty good. About a minute or 55 second 100-meter freestyle kind of thing. That's what I was doing at that time. Then I got into cross country running in my high school years, 5K, 10K. Uh, Post that, I got into football, which was also almost pretty serious. I even coached the girls' football team in my undergrads. I made for the first time the Pune University girls' football team. Um and then when I went to Australia to do my postgrads, I picked up cycling pretty seriously over there because as a student, the best way to go around is on a bike, cheapest way. So I was fortunate to meet a lot of good cyclists over there. In fact, I got a chance to work with the Pro Conti team over there. I learned interned with them, learned how to do bike fits with one of the really experienced guys over there. And yeah, then I came back, so I knew, swimming, then running, and then bike, then put it all together, and I got into triathlons after that.
Oh, yeah, beautiful,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Quite organic. You've been training. We can say you've been training to be a triathlete all your life. In that case,
Yeah. Usually, here in India, what happens is people are runners and then they get into cycling and then they learn swim and then they do it. I was fortunate enough to, have a good base of swimming, which really helps.
amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
So, and I'm yet to learn swimming, so that's why I haven't picked up a
Do it.
triathlon yet. So, coming back to you, right?
Yeah.
So you've been involved in sport all your life, by the sounds of it. When was this post grad stint in Australia? What were the years?
I think around 2008 to 2012. I was there for about 4.5 years,
Mhm.
almost 5 years. I did my double masters there, biomechanics. I learned sports science over there, biotechnology. Uh, yeah, I worked there for a year. I was a research assistant. I published a few articles in genetics. Uh, so that was the more academic side of things, which did involve a lot of, studying the science of human movement, kinesiology, the biomechanics, um, and that really helped, to understand the fundamentals of training, even the biochemistry side. Like that really helped me understand how the food gets broken down in your body, the different kinds of chemical cycles, ATP productions and stuff like that. So when I came back and because back in those days, we didn't have too many coaches also, right? This was not so structured that how it is today. So pretty much I had to figure my way out when I got into, say, when I came back in 12, there was a lot of BRM cultures going on here, ultra culture going on, along with, the kind of racing that we were doing, but that was very far and few in between, right? Like, I mean, you guys were in Bangalore, not very accessible for us, but the BRMs were there. So we got into that. There's that ultra cycling scenario where they had launched the Deccan Cliffhanger, that the long ultra races. So got into those, applied my science, and it really helped me get a good result there. Started winning some of those. Yeah, that's how the cycling thing came on. I also, as I said, with Life Cycle, we had that team over here where we were trying to do mass starts as well. I tried my hands there. That was also amazing.
Right.
Yeah, it was that really made my joy for cycling was really cool there.
Amazing. So you mentioned when you were in Australia that you worked with a pro Conti team for a bit, interned
Yeah,
with a pro
yeah,
Conti
yeah.
team for a bit. What was the experience like?
To give you the just the scale of it, the guy I was my mentee, he had 50 years of experience in bike mechanics and bike fitting. 50 years of experience. So that guy, it was just amazing to just learn from them. It was just amazing how I met these guys because I was just cycling one day, sitting in a cafe, and these guys like all fit and lean and big legs and all, and all that super awesome kit. So I just started talking to them, and this guy ended, he's one of the higher management in that company. So he's like, can I come in as an intern? Because I was looking for a job, and then they just offered me then and there because I had a great conversation with them, and that was amazing because I think that was very pivotal for me to understand cycling because I would not have learned that in India at that time. There was nobody. There are very few people who actually knew what was happening. So that was really really nice. The basically how to use power meters, how the wattage and FTP, and the kind of how you sit on the bike, all of that. That really helped.
Nice. And you came back, you did a few races, and you kind of got into ultra cycling and ultra racing with
Yeah,
Deccan Cliffhanger and stuff. What
yeah.
were some of the uh, memorable races during that time for you?
Uh, the Deccan Cliffhanger was definitely a very special race to me because that's where it really brought out a lot of my cycling potential. I learned that this I was just a little better at really long distances rather than the super short ones. Uh, yeah, and that really helped me. I won, I think, probably 4 or 5 races over there. And one of the biggest memories that I have is the Desert 500 that happened in, I think it was 2014, early 2014. It was a 700 odd kilometer race, and I had won a couple of technical fingers at that time, and I was a little arrogant that I'll go in and it's a flat race, and you're going from Pune, which is pretty hilly, and you're all used to the hills, but then you go to the flats and you're like, okay, I'm gonna kill this 22 hours and I'm gonna finish this 700, 35 kmph, blah blah blah. But then that race really showed me my spot, and like I barely made it in cutoff to just 27 and a half hours. The 28-hour was a cutoff. But I still came first, but it was amazing. It really gave a good perspective. I really grew as an athlete in that race, and you learn not to be arrogant and to respect the race, to respect the sport. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. I mean that is very important. When you
yeah,
make mistakes is
correct.
when you probably learn the most, right?
Exactly.
Apart from by the sounds of it, you started too hard in the race. So apart from that, what were other mistakes that
No.
you remember
So in
from?
that race, one was that, one day before, we were just coming back from the registration or the check-in, and I had a fall. I was looking at this was in Jaipur, and there was like a nice big, there's a fort there. So I was looking at the fort while cycling, and there was some pothole, and I had a fall. I broke my thumb, So I had to race with a broken thumb. That was a problem because every time I had to change the gear, I had to use my other hand, for
Oh.
the entire 700K. That was one problem. Then the other one was, to underestimate the heat, the cold in the night. Uh, yeah, just that it was pretty brutal. It was
Yeah.
pretty new, for a boy from Pune to see the deserts of Rajasthan. Learned that a lot. Then also, I didn't really go hard, but just, it was so, the overall conditions were pretty hard. And I should not have had that, the arrogance of going in with a 22-hour target.
Mm,
That was a little unrealistic, and, I should have had backup. So that would have helped me prepare mentally.
mm,
Just helps. And then also, I mean, I had some good stiff competition at that time. There were some guys from the Navy, and we were, imagine after 400 kilometers of racing and you are, neck to neck and still trying to sprint out attacks. I mean, you could imagine something like that in a mustard, but doing
right.
that after 400 kilometers of cycling in the middle of the night, that was very hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was
So
banter at that time. Imagine like 3 a.m. and these guys, we are bantering each other.
amazing. So
Yeah,
you've done well in these ultra long distance events,
yeah,
and won a few of them, including Deccan Cliffhanger, which was like a 600 kilometer
yeah. 640,
race,
four
right?
hundred miles.
Six,
Yeah,
yeah, 640 kilometer race, and this one, Desert 500 was some 700 odd. You've
yeah.
done well for in these races. At the time, what was the for someone who is looking for these kind of ultra distance races, rides, right? What are
Yeah.
the important things to keep in mind in terms of, say, nutrition and pacing?
I think you really put that on perspective, Venki, because nutrition was the biggest point, and that really worked for me. Because of my background in biology and the studies that I had done, I knew exactly what I wanted to do about nutrition. And unfortunately, nobody in that time in India was very open about it, or I don't know. I definitely did not have any access to anybody who knew how to take care of your nutrition for an ultra, right? Barely anybody had done that in the country. So, but I knew what I wanted through all my studies, and I experimented a lot, and that really helped me. I think that gave me a big edge over my competition at that time, because I got that spot on. And when all my competition was either tiring out or under fueling, people thought that I was overeating, or I was mad to eat so many gels or so much food, but that is what kept me going. And over that 24 hours, my rough off saddle time would have been only 15 odd minutes, all put together. So that
Right.
that nutrition was super important. I would say was more important than the training itself.
Hmm. So, what were
Yeah,
you
I
doing
mean,
in terms of nutrition? Were you kind of fueling predominantly through gels, or predominantly liquid nutrition, or a combination of those, plus real foods? How did it look like?
So Venki, in those years, I think I've probably done about 5 to 6 art races during that 2 3 years span, and I experimented quite a bit. There was one race where I did only on gels. One race I did mostly on solid foods. Then one, kind of an hybrid, and I mixed and matched everything in different conditions, and that's where I found out that a good mix of gels and solid food is a really a good way to that worked for me, right? And quite a few of my athletes at that time, because at that time I had Bharat Panu and Darshan. We had gone to race around Austria. I think that was 2018, and that really worked for them as well. So the whole nutrition part. And even at that time, I think in 2015, I'd gone to RAM to crew and as an assistant coach for Joan Deichmann. She's the Canadian motorcyclist. So also there, I learned quite a bit about all these foreign brands, GU, Scratch Labs, which wasn't again very prevalent in India at that time. I got them there. I experimented with them, and I think that put a big edge for me at that time.
Hmm. Excellent. What were the solid foods look like during those races?
Solid foods were, there was this one race where I almost ate 3 kilos of dal khichdi
Oh wow!
throughout the whole race. Yeah,
Right.
that was one big one. Frozen watermelon in the heat of the day. There was a lot of coconut water,
Hmm.
which was also pre-frozen, and then I had that nice and cold when, especially in the heat of the day.
Hmm.
Then what was the other solids? Yeah, there was. What used to happen was when you are out there in the heat, you don't want to eat very sugary stuff. The mouth, you just don't feel like eating, so you want savory stuff, right? So I had a lot of variety, and my wife Nikki, she was also there in my crew. So she had made these really nice chicken sandwiches, which was really helpful. Which really changed my palate and kept me eating. Because one of the biggest enemies, especially in the ultra, is that after a few hours on the bike or whatever, you don't feel like eating at all, and you're just really killing your race there. You
Right.
have to eat. You cannot just say, okay, I don't feel like eating, and then no. So you have to keep eating no matter how you feel. So there was different varieties, right? So there was theplas, there was a little of even pickle I ate just to change my palate,
Hmm.
from all the sweets of because almost all the gels are very sweet,
Right.
right? Even like the watermelon, the coconut water, they all start to taste sweet, 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 and you don't
Hmm.
want to have that.
Right.
Even dal khichdi after a point because it's just starch, right? So that
Right.
also tastes sweet. So you want to, make it a little savory like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the ultras, especially, there is a saying like they are predominantly eating competitions. Whoever
Oh
can
yeah, correct.
eat the most and keep them,
Exactly, yeah. And keep
you
it
know,
down. You keep
keep
it
it
down.
down.
Yeah,
They tend to do well,
yeah.
right?
I mean,
Uh,
I remember so many of our competitors where they're stopping and throwing up.
yeah,
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 it's a challenge. Yeah, it's not
yeah,
easy, and
yeah.
it's you have to train for it. A lot of our
Right,
athletes, I make sure that just like how you train your muscles, you got to train your gut. You
right.
cannot have something totally different on a race day and eat so much
Yeah.
without practicing for it.
Yeah, definitely. And then after this ultra, staying, when did this triathlon happen? Was it like a simultaneous thing? How did the
It
triathlon journey
was
start?
kind of a parallel thing that was going on because at that point, triathlon was not big at all in India. Cycling was still okay, the
Mm,
BRMs and the ultras. But in 2014, there was a race organized by the NEF Enduro group here. They used to organize these trekking competitions. So these guys were one of the first triathlons that I remember, like I know of, happened here in Pune, 2014, and I took part, and I knew I was a good swimmer. I knew I was a decent runner because I was still running at that time. I was doing 10Ks and an odd 21K here and there. So with my athletics background, I came second in that race with a puncture. And there was some pretty
wow.
stiff competition. We had some national level guys over there. So that was my eye opener. Okay, I'm not too bad in this. Maybe I should give it a try. So then I started going and doing a little more of these open water. We were exploring, and I just like to just go out. Not for the sport of or for training, but just go out in the nature, hike, and just jump in any lakes. Because in Pune we've got a lot of lakes around. More than 40, 50 lakes we have within like 2 or 3 hours of from Pune. So that I just go out with my friends, jump in the water, do some swimming. Um, and I was very really afraid of open water swimming, and then that's how the love for triathlon started. And then after that first triathlon, I was working for a gym at that point, MultiFit. So they helped me sponsor, for my first Ironman in 2015. So I went to Switzerland and did my first Ironman there. So trained for a year. That was pretty cool. And again, I chose Switzerland because I really wanted to go to Switzerland just to, I knew the country was really pretty. I did not know that it was one of the toughest courses, especially on the bike. Uh,
Right. Very hilly, I think.
Very hilly, so there was almost 3,000 meters of elevation.
Oh,
But I
wow.
still, yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, I mean, I was really strong because I was doing a lot of, mass start racing as well. So cycling
Mhm.
was really, really, really good at that time. So could still finish it all in almost just a little over than 6 hours, 180 kilometer, just 29 kmph, which was not bad for a course like that.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah,
So how was the whole that first Ironman experience? The bike seems to have gone decent. How was the swimming and all?
yeah. Bike had no problem. I mean, I was flying, because of the recent experience of the whole ultra and the masters, cycling was I was really happy. Swimming I never had a problem with. I just did again just a little over than 1 hour, 1 hour 5 minutes for the 3.8. The only challenge was it was pretty cold. Um, the whole, you are new to the whole wetsuits. Again, we didn't have wetsuits in India at that time. I had to source it from outside. Fortunately, I could get it and tried on it a little. That was a big learning curve, how to use wetsuits, how to put them on, how to take care of it. You had absolutely nobody to tell you how to do all of these. Then the biggest challenge was the pacing, right? Because I was such a good cyclist, and at that point my weakest was running. So just because I put a little too much on the bike, again I did have a power meter, but I went overboard. Again, I learned from it. Then I knew how much power you want to keep on, so that I didn't burn out on the run. So it
Hmm.
took me about 5 hours that time, but yeah,
Yeah.
I learned from
Nice,
there.
nice, nice. So, what would you say was your best triathlon experience
As an athlete or as a coach?
as an athlete? Yeah, to begin with. We'll get to
As
the
an athlete,
coaching.
my first triathlon, the triathlon, the race that happened, it was like that off-road triathlon where we use mountain bikes,
Mhm.
where I came in second. It was it's still with me, even after more than, this is actually puts 11 years. It was 2013 or 14. So just
Right.
10, 11 years, and it's still very fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
So
Um,
yeah, it was like nothing else. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. The first ones are always special. That you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
A- and especially like it did for you to set you on this path of
yeah.
being in love with it and trying to
Correct.
now guiding others
Yeah,
in this path to enjoy and get better at the
yeah,
sport,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
uh, so I can imagine that. So
No,
coming
but
to
yeah,
yeah, coming to your triathlon coaching, right?
yeah.
Or coaching in general, how and when did it start that journey as a coach?
So about when I came back from Australia, I worked as a assistant professor in the University of Pune, couple of years, and I really did not like that job. Um, it was a nice, cushy job, um, but yeah, I left that and I joined the gym because a couple of things was this job was not very supportive of my athletic endeavors, and I wanted to explore something which was much more wholesome that I could give back to this industry that I had, after my first Ironman, after so many wins in my ultras, in triathlons. I wanted to give back because I realized there was just nobody giving out knowledge in triathlons. So I wanted to develop myself as a coach. So I started, and at that point, for us, fitness in India is just gyms, right? There was nothing really structured in terms of endurance in those years. So, I mean, the only endurance coach I really knew was Naveen, NJ.
Mm.
and I'd met him in one of our Bangalore races. But that was it, and he was into cycling, so I didn't really know anyone in triathlon or anyone even doing it on Training Peaks, right?
Right.
Nobody was using Training Peaks at that time. So again, Training Peaks is something that I picked up when I was in Australia.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, so I mean that's where uh, in the gym I learned how to apply the basics at its most fundamental levels, being a personal trainer. The
Mm.
biomechanics, how to squat properly, how to lift things properly, how to have a proper nutrition program everything. So I must have trained in the. I worked there for about 4 years. Started off as a personal trainer and worked my way up as the director of operations. I had 40 gyms under me. So
Mm.
I trained a lot of personal trainers. I wrote a manual. And started in the Multifit Exercise Science Academy, right?
Right.
So I was training these trainers. Then I was basically, started my own gym, where this is where I learned the business side of sport. Because I was really good with all the technical knowledge because of my degree and all of that. But that's a very different thing from knowing the business.
Mm.
So with my own gym and with being a director, I understood the corporate side, the money side of fitness in sport, and yeah, and of course during this whole time, since about 2015 or on, I have been coaching. I started off with a very small group of kids. I think you might know some of them. Chinmay actually started off with me.
Oh, nice.
Chinmay, Mihir. Back in the day, we had this multi-fit. We called it mates racing team, right?
Mm.
Even Nikhil Anand Sekhar, quite a few of the boys who are really, some of them are really doing well. Nikhil, Chinmay, as
Yeah.
he's just reached one of,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's on his way to become one of the best in the country soon.
For sure.
So I'm really proud of him. So
Mm.
yeah, that's how it started, and that's where I am today.
Amazing, amazing. The Power Peaks, the athlete lab is,
Yeah.
what you have started, right? So, uh, and then which was the year that Power Peaks kind of
So PowerPeaks
came?
was born in about I think September 2019.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Um, yeah, I think 2019. Yeah, but I was coaching before, but it was just
Before,
informally
correct,
under my own name, like Coach Chai is
correct.
just coaching a few athletes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But then we scaled up properly. We became a club in 2019. Power Peaks was born at that
Mm.
time because we wanted to scale it up properly. We had cyclists, we had triathletes, we had runners, and ultra cyclists as well. So
Mm.
I was into all of these things. So that's where it formally was launched.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah,
So, you know for someone who is new to the sport, right?
yeah.
And we always see this, right? When uh, maybe I've picked up a bike recently and I enjoy cycling, but I maybe I've enjoyed a little bit of running here and there, and I swam a little bit here and there, but I want to put all these together, and I want to I heard someone doing something called Ironman, and that is how
Yeah,
I become very excited. Not
correct.
particularly me, but this is something that we see
The
all the
people, yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
right. So someone has picked up this idea that I want to become an Iron Man. This has become
Yeah,
a brand, right? It's more than
correct.
a sport. It is a brand that is like it's very
Exactly.
very enticing thing, right?
Correct,
So,
correct.
so for someone who comes to you with an idea like this, and uh, how do you guide him uh, on this journey, right?
Very, I think this is the most relevant question, and really thank you. Want to thank you for asking this. Because now, as an insider of cycling, let's say, right, you've been cycling for so long, you know how important it is uh, to know the basics, right? To let's say the etiquettes of cycling, to ride in a group, to give the proper signals. I mean, you totally know that this guy is a triathlete and this guy is a cyclist. Triathletes have no cycling etiquette, right? But that's where I get
Group riding etiquette.
group riding and just making sure that they should able to have the proper cycling skills, right? For
Mm,
example, just being able to do a small what do you call the track stand, because
mm,
riding in traffic you just got to stop for like a few seconds so that you don't fall off, right? Being able to change gears, or being even on the steeper sections, you should be able to switch gears, or when to stand, when to sit, when to go, these things you really pick up when you are a proper cyclist,
mm,
right? Similar thing, I was fortunate that I was kind of an insider into each of these in my own organically growth, when I was, again, because I was swimmer in the pool, I did the whole, I gave my salt for that, right? Like I was
mm.
in the pool, proper nationals, did my drills, did my everything. Then I got into proper athletics, did my track sessions, did my mobility, did my A skips, B skips, C skip, all of that, right? It's not just that as a triathlete, what happens is they just want to do the Ironman, and that's it, and then they forget the basics. They are not really great at any one particular thing. So that's when I tell them that, okay, when I work with somebody, I make them sit and make them do a long term commitment, and I tell them that, dude, this is a lifestyle. You want to be fit, right? Then you've got to know the foundation. You've got to respect the sport of the sport and know each of this. Like become a runner first, become a cyclist first, become a swimmer first, then you become a good triathlete. And when they understand this, when they incorporate this, these guys, then they are able to, sustain this for a very long time, and
Mm.
not just just upper say, just go out and do one medal and then they either get injured, or they are, because then you're just doing it for the wrong things.
Right, right. That is super important, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Sustainability and
correct,
the reasons, doing this for the right reasons, right?
correct, correct.
This should not be something of a one and done thing, right? It
Yeah,
is
yeah,
like you said, it is a lifestyle change. um,
correct.
if you are doing it just because you want to put it on your profile somewhere, maybe
Exactly.
LinkedIn
Yeah,
or
yeah,
somewhere, it doesn't really
yeah.
add too much to you as a
It doesn't,
person
and then
and
they just go
sportsman.
back to the correct.
Right, right. That this is really important. That very good points you made about learning the basics, being
Yeah.
good with the basics, and you know putting it all together and
But
looking at.
most of the time, I have to tell them that the sport is triathlon. It is not Ironman. Ironman is a brand.
Right,
You've got to make that distinction.
right. Yeah, exactly. Lot of other brands are coming, which is good
Yeah.
to see. Like this, what is this? The hundreds that are coming.
T100, PTO. So PTO is
PTO.
really doing really well. They kept changing the name. So there was Challenge, it became PTO. They become T100 now. They are
Mm,
doing some really nice work,
yeah, yeah.
and it was really high time.
They're short and exact
Yeah,
to watch
yeah,
too. Right?
yeah, exactly. And we
Shorter.
needed something because Ironman was becoming a big monopoly, and
Yeah.
there was a point where a lot of athletes, the athletes were becoming more of a, they were taking a backseat for Ironman. It was just business for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
especially when it becomes a even the professional athletes
yeah,
don't
yeah.
get much out of it.
Exactly.
That's a problem. I guess that is what
Correct. Correct.
PTO is trying to address.
Correct.
Um,
Correct.
yeah, they are great. So, see, someone who gets, approaches you with this goal of becoming an Iron Man. You put them through the rigor of understanding the basics and you know
Yeah.
training towards that, right?
Yeah.
um, Say he has gone through the rigor, made it to the start point. What would be, how would you guide such a person on how to pace for the race, and how to again take care of the nutrition for an event like, say, an Ironman itself, right?
So if it's somebody who's new to it, what we always do is first we got to target how their technique is.
Mm.
We want to make sure that they are good swimmers, good cyclists, and good runners. Because there's no point in, as we said, just going and hitting the distance and just trying to survive the whole thing. Uh, then what we do is we make sure we test them out. We do their, like for example, anyone who comes to you for cycling, how do you do? Probably do the FTP test first.
Correct.
So of course, so we do the FTP for the bike, but there are similar, critical speed test for, for swimming. There's the, we'll do a 5K tester for running, and so that we understand where they are. And then we take them, if they have not done the distance first, so we'll try to slowly increase their volume and make sure that they can sustain weekly high volumes, and then introduce intensity a little later in the training stage. So then they can go, talk about speed later. So that's how we do safely the whole thing. Another important thing that we definitely make sure is there's a lot of strength training involved, especially as a triathlete, because there's so many things that they are doing. It's very easy if they have imbalance to overtrain or injure themselves. So we make sure that they have a good strong core, good strong upper body, lower bodies to sustain the kind of volume that we are doing. And then you've got to make sure that all of these guys, again, most of the time they underfuel. They overeat, but they underfuel. So we totally have to revamp their eating choices and their nutrition lifestyles. So
How
yeah,
that's interesting. They overeat but under fuel. How do you
yes.
kind of, can you elaborate on that?
So it's for example, if we are going to go for a long Sunday, a typical Sunday for a triathlete would be like a 70.3 athlete would cycle for about 3 to 4 hours and run for about 1 to 90 minutes or 2 hours. Right now, a preparation for this starts with one day before. What these guys will typically do is, they will eat quite a lot, but the wrong things. They will, just because tomorrow you got to do a long one, they'll just try to, have junk food or have a beer Saturday night, or just have a lot more carbs and no protein or no salads. So that's one problem. And then after that Sunday thing, basically again you have to have good complex carbohydrates to make sure they recover out of it, not just protein, but something like complex carbohydrates. So like again, khichdi or just any kind of jowar roti with bhakri with normal Indian sabjis. These are the kind of foods that we always recommend. Now, when I say overeating, is what happens is they will try to have, because most of the recreational athletes, they'll justify, okay, I've done so much, so cheat your way, add some junk food or sweets, or that's where the calories become too much.
Right.
And they will think that eating chocolate or ice cream after a ride is okay. Sometimes yes, but again, most of them, if they are overweight or fat percentage is too high, you should not be doing that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's
That
where I say that they're not getting enough calories from the proper sources that they should be.
Right. Yeah, definitely. That makes sense, right? We at least a lot of us have been there and done that. We kind of
Yeah, yeah,
overestimate how much we
correct,
burn, and when it
correct,
comes to
exactly.
tend to hog. Especially
Yeah,
it happens when you are not fueling properly during the session.
exactly,
You come
exactly.
back famished and you are
And
like
just, yeah,
ready to eat the whole,
correct, correct.
damn buffet, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it is important to kind of fuel well during the sessions
Yes,
also,
yeah, yeah.
so that you are
Before,
not,
during,
yeah, before, during,
yeah.
so that you are like, continuing on same
Correct.
controlled
See, I
manner.
don't think with triathletes is you have multiple sessions in a day. They'll swim
Right.
in the morning and they'll probably do an indoor bike session in the evening.
Yeah.
So it's important to have timely meals and, have the right kind because imagine if you have some like a big meal after a morning session, then you're going to do an indoor session at the end of the day. You can't because then you're just carrying too much food in your tongue.
Right.
So
Right.
that becomes very important.
Yeah, coming back to someone who made it through this all these trainings and made it to the start line of a Ironman, say 70.3, or like even the full distance
Yeah,
triathlon, right?
yeah.
Uh, how would what would ideal pacing look like, and what would ideal uh, nutrition look like? I know it's like
Uh,
individual, but you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
the
Yeah, I
typical.
mean, we can just generically speaking,
Yeah.
if on a race day, I will wake up early, I'll have a good breakfast of banana and uh, maybe a peanut butter sandwich kind of a thing. Just something medium, not too heavy,
Yeah.
about 1 hour or 1.5 hour before. Before my swim, I will have a gel. In an Ironman swim, you're not allowed to eat anything. So after the swim is done, and once I start the bike, we start eating gels every 30 minutes. Uh, so if it's a full iron, it will be almost 12 gels if you're putting 6 hours on the bike. And then about anywhere between, if it's a 4 hour marathon, you're looking at maybe 8 gels there. So that's almost 4, 12, another 20 odd gels in the whole day. So you gotta, make sure that you are trained for this.
Right.
Either that or these guys are also, most of the time what I do is I also mix it up with a little bananas on the run.
Mm.
Cycling, I don't have it, but just the gels because it's difficult to take bananas from them
Yeah.
because most of the volunteers are not very well trained with handing out food. But that's how I would do my nutrition is, I will do a nice simple foods throughout the week, no carb loading, nothing very different. I will stick to my, sabji roti, dal chawal diet, avoid anything, very spicy or eat outside. And most of the Ironman we are traveling, so it's very, it's tempted because in the hotels you have all these buffets. So we avoid sweets, very, very important. You don't want to have big sugar spikes right before the race or during the race. Then so that then you go in feeling really good. And every time, whenever I have nailed my nutrition, I've always ended up getting a very good time and always felt very strong throughout the race. Um, Another thing was you spoke about was how to pace. Talking about the pacing.
Yeah.
So okay, so you start off with the swim. One of the things I always tell my students is when you come out of this water, you should feel fresh. You should not be drained. When we swim, it's like you should feel like walking. You should be able to do the distance with, you know, you should not be again too drained out. It should feel great. You come out strong, and the real race starts on the bike. Because again, swim is only one of the smallest part of the triathlon. Right? You don't spend a lot of time. Maybe if it's a full iron, maybe around anywhere around for an Indian average is about 90 minutes. I would spend only about an hour or 1 hour and 20 minutes anywhere between that. Then on the bike is the longest part. This is where a lot of athletes, overexert or really are too ambitious and go too hard under fuel and yeah, and then they just find that they don't have legs left for the run. This is really critical. This is where power meters really come into the picture, so it can help us pace properly. no matter what conditions, be it windy, be it hilly. With the power meter, you can really, you give them a good target that they have, done their rides here, whatever target that they have so that they don't overdo it. Then they come out strong. The whole thing is about going, again, the bike should feel very easy. A lot of people, especially in their first Ironman, they're so excited. They feel good after a swim, and you really want to push. You want to, you see people, you want to overtake them. But yeah, you got to be careful there and go easy. Because what happens is you might, even like a 20 watt, you go higher on the bike, you might just save about 5 or 10 minutes in the entire duration, but
Right.
you will lose, you know, half an hour or probably almost an hour if you're just doing a walk run,
Right.
right? So it doesn't make sense. So just for that 5, 10 minutes extra that you gain on the bike, you would lose so much on the run. So you might as well take 10 minutes more, but that's going to really help you get that target that you want, that run split that you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That is really important. Cycling being the biggest.
correct.
You tend to do lot more. The chances of doing lot more mistakes is also high,
Oh
right?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
another thing, Venki. I mean, as a triathletes, a lot of these athletes they do not know how to take out punctures because they are so new to the sport. They are in the hurry to do a triathlon. They forget that they have to deal with the bike. I've heard of, there was a story that I just heard. An athlete from India went to one of the Ironman abroad. It was a simple problem. This athlete, the chain dropped. All this athlete had to do is put on the chain. That athlete couldn't do that. They had
Mm.
no idea about the bike. And it's
Right.
such a simple thing, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah. And in the recent London 100, Sam Long had the same, like, the just
there
skipped
you go.
the,
Yeah,
chain drops.
yeah,
These things always happen, even with
yeah,
professional cyclists, with the
correct.
top-notch equipment. These are kind of, these things happen, and you need to
Yeah,
be able to take care of those
correct,
things.
correct.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. This is like, um, really, fun chatting, about all things cycling and triathlon with you. It's been
Yeah,
a
yeah.
long time coming. Uh, you
Thank
know,
you.
if I'm glad that we are finally able to, do this. Uh, Before we, bring this to a close, what are some of the
Yeah.
tips that you would give working athletes to do well at sport and, life in general?
I think one of the biggest thing, just as for the namesake of this podcast, the working athletes, one big tip is, you know, having a good lifestyle, waking up early, sleeping early, especially if you have a 9 to 5 job. Those early morning hours are very, very important. That's the only time of the day where nobody's out there to get you a piece of you. So get that early mornings in, get your training done. Do not wait for the end of the day. That's my biggest, tip to anyone. So that, you'll sort your training out and then you can still go out, do your job, do your projects, be a family man, whatever you have to do after,
Right.
so and then the other thing is do not forget the basics. Please, please, please be a cyclist first, be a runner first, be a swimmer first, then become a triathlete. That
Yeah.
way, it will be more rewarding. You can keep doing this for a long time. And you really enjoy the sport because then you know each of its thing in its whole glory. Uh, and it's just, yeah, so much more rewarding.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Chay. It's been a super fun conversation. Thank you for sharing your journey with the Working Athlete podcast.
Thank you so much. It was really a big pleasure having, being here and talking to you. And yeah, all the best. You're doing great work. Keep going. And, I've heard a lot of, your talks before. So really helping out a lot. And in fact, a lot of people have come and told me that, okay, I've heard Venki and talk about this, talk about that. And, it's really good to put out as much knowledge so that we all together, we take this community to we help create faster athletes for our country.
Yeah. For sure, for sure. Thank you, Chai.
You're
All
welcome.
right.
Thank you, Venki.
That was my conversation with Chai. I hope you enjoyed that. If you are enjoying these podcasts and are finding them useful, please consider supporting the podcast by subscribing to it on YouTube as well as on your favorite podcasting app. It really helps. Thanks again for your continuous support. See you next week with another guest.